For more than 1,000 years, people have been drawn to Islam's message of peace. And the very word itself, Islam, comes from salam, peace. The standard greeting is, assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. And like so many faiths, Islam is rooted in a commitment to compassion and mercy and justice and charity. Whoever wants to enter paradise, the Prophet Muhammad taught, let him treat people the way he would love to be treated. For Christians like myself, I'm assuming that sounds familiar.
So the president speaking warmly yet again about Islam, a speech at a mosque today, highlighting the contributions Muslims have made to the fabric of American society. Islam has always been a part of America, he said, and detailing the beginnings of the religion among African slaves brought to America, and that Thomas Jefferson included Mohammedan as one of the religions that should be protected. Now, this president has a history that praises Islam and a resistance to point out there is radical Islamists, those perverting a religion. You know, Nicholas Kristof quoted him in the time that he spent in Jakarta at a Muslim school when he was growing up, that he said with a first-rate accent, there's nothing more beautiful than the call to prayer at sunset. He's also talked about the terrible deeds done in the name of Christ and the Crusades, et cetera, obviously not knowing that the Crusades in large part were about taking lands, Christian lands back that had been conquered from Muslim conquerors. Joining us now, Saba Ahmed, President, Founder, Muslim Republican Coalition, Brigitte Gabriel, terror expert, founder and CEO for Act for America. Saba was invited by the White House to attend the mosque in Baltimore. What'd you think of it today, Saba?
It was awesome.
Saba?
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. And, you know, despite our policy differences with the Obama administration, I was grateful to see the president reach out to Muslim Americans. And I hope he felt welcomed by our Muslim congressmen, armed forces members, and members of the community, imams, community leaders. And we had many people attend from all walks of life. And I was really appreciative that he came and spoke in our main prayer hall. And it was very nice seeing him humbled. He was standing right below the sign Allah, which is God. And so we were grateful, and I hope to see future presidents visit mosques in their key electoral states as well.
Brigitte, what was your take on all of this? And from what I understand and what I've been reading, this mosque in particular is known for controversial figures.
This charade is nothing more than to score political points for the president, especially in an election season, and for everything that's been happening around us, especially with the rise of Islamic radicalism, including ISIS here in our own country. What is so concerning is the problem is not with the president visiting a mosque. President Bush visited a mosque. We want our presidents to show respect to people who abide by a spiritual belief to make them better people and better citizens of the United States. But the fact that our president would choose a mosque that is tied to the Muslim Brotherhood and radicalism, that he would choose a mosque that is involved and a part and identified with ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, which was the first organization mentioned in the Muslim Brotherhood project, the plan for the destruction of the United States.
I disagree, Brigitte. I think, I don't think there's a single mosque in America that you would disagree.
You can disagree, but I'm discussing facts. I'm talking about the largest terrorism trial ever in the history of the United States, where our government handed down a 108 guilty verdict for radical Muslim organization and radical imams, handing out money and sending millions of dollars from the United States to support terrorist organizations overseas. One of those
there are
people who are
2,200
on the board of the project of the
United
Islamic
States
Relief Organization, raising money to send to terrorists overseas, was the Imam Muhammad Adam al-Sheikh. So for the president to choose a mosque with such terrorist links is mind-boggling. But then again, he invited you.
Tell me which one mosque would be okay by you. I don't think there's a single mosque that would be okay, because ISNA is the Islamic Society of North America and reaches out to 2,200 plus mosques across the United States. I don't think there's a single mosque that you would be okay or approved by you. Law enforcement was here, FBI, everybody was here, and everyone cleared this mosque. There is no ties to terrorism. And for you to go after, every single mosque, I don't think he could have chosen any other mosque that would have been okay by anyone.
I did not go after every single mosque. This is the rhetoric that you are espousing on the radio as a part of your lives. Why don't you tell the audience about your involvement and friendship with the wannabe terrorist bomber, the Portland bomber of the Christmas
I never
bomber?
met the guy. I saw him once at court. When you go to court, you meet a lot of bad people.
And you were thrown out of one of his court hearings for contempt. So you are a terrorist sympathizer who is a liar, cloaking yourself in the American flag and patriotism. So I am not disappointed by the president choosing someone like you because he has been surrounding himself with terrorist sympathizers.
Hate against me personally. Bridget, a lot of defense lawyers go to court and see a lot of bad people. Doesn't mean you become friends with them or doesn't mean you become anything associated with them. I don't know the person. I went there on behalf of the Muslim community. Just because they're similarly.
All right, let me slow this down. All right, Brigitte, explain the controversy involving this particular mosque a little slower so people can get it.
This mosque in particular, this mosque is a part of ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, and there's ample evidence that ISNA is linked to Hamas, the terrorist organization. The Islamic Society of Baltimore is not only associated with ISNA, as if that was bad enough, but the mosque's imam for 15 years, Imam Muhammad Adam al-Sheikh, also has deep ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. In addition to that, the Sheikh served as the regional director of the Islamic American Relief Agency, a group which, according to the U.S. Treasury, funneled funds to Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas, among other terrorist organizations. And also, the Sheikh defended Palestinian suicide bombings against Israel. So we have a mosque that is already linked to the Muslim Brotherhood with an imam who's a terrorist sympathizer and supporter.
If he was, he would have been arrested and prosecuted by our law enforcement. But they weren't. Therefore, you have no evidence. You're just making up baseless claims, just like you make up stuff against me. There's no evidence. Otherwise, they would have been fully prosecuted to the full extent of the law. You're making up stuff, and you're discrediting good human beings. That's exactly what a lot of people do, is tarnish all Muslim Americans as suspected of terrorism. We're normal human beings, and we'd like to live in peace with all people. And for you to go after every single person who speaks out to defend our community and tarnish them and call them suspects and linking them to, some person may have seen you, so that's why you're related to terrorism, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely horrifying that you're accusing us of being associated with terrorism. We're the frontline people who should be asked and should be helping with our national security problem. We should not be tarnishing Muslim American community. And I was grateful to see the president, and I hope every single future president comes to a mosque during his first year, just like Bush came in his first year. Obama shouldn't have waited.
All right, let me ask this question. Let me move the discussion forward. In many Islamic countries, you must admit that women are treated horribly. Saba, women.
I'm sure there are.
Well, no. It's not a matter of you're sure there are. We know that they are. We know in Saudi Arabia.
There are cultural practices.
Hang on. I'm going to ask my question. But that women can't drive. Women must dress a certain way. Women can't go to school sometimes. They can't go to work sometimes. They can't even leave the house without a male relative. And this happens in many Muslim countries where women are oppressed. And it's oppressed in the name of the religion. And I haven't even talked about radical Islamic terrorism, which is the hijacking of a religion. So why is Islam so harsh towards minorities? And, for example, you can't build a synagogue or a Catholic church or a Christian church or a Baptist church in Saudi Arabia. There's no openness there.
Can you build a mosque in Jerusalem?
Actually, that's called the Alaska Mosque right in the middle of Jerusalem, yeah.
Well, that's our main mosque. But I'm saying in Israel, how many mosques can you build?
I'm saying that there are. Wait a minute. I answered your question. There are mosques in Israel. But you can't build them in a lot of Muslim countries. Those that choose to become Christian are viewed as apostates, and often the penalty for them is death. If you look at the way gays and lesbians are treated, the penalty is death under Sharia law.
Traditional marriage. We're very much pro-life, pro-traditional family values.
Killing gay people? You don't have a problem? If somebody's gay, you want to kill them?
No. I mean, there are harsh punishment.
I'm pro. I don't want to change the definition of marriage, but it's none of my business what people do.
Right, but as a society, I don't.
But that's
think
what's happening in predominantly Muslim countries, and you're not addressing it.
They have cultural practices which are very patriarchal. You mentioned the example of women not being able to drive. Nowhere in the Quran does that say that.
Okay, but the Quran and the Hadith do say, hang on, but the Quran and Hadith do say, take neither Christians nor Jews for your friends. It does say, it does talk a lot about jihad and holy war against the infidels, meaning non-Muslims.
Christians are the nearest in friendship to Muslims.
Okay, but
Christians have the most love for, because we are people of the book. There are people who believe in one God.
Was Muhammad himself a warrior?
He was a political leader.
I didn't ask if he was a political leader. I asked if he's a warrior. Did he take other people's lands?
He defended the Muslim community.
Did he take other people's lands? I'm asking. All right, Brigitte, you want to answer this?
Yes. Prophet Muhammad was a warrior defending Islamic land, just like ISIS right now, walking in his footsteps. And in the minds of Islamists who follow ISIS, they are following in the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad, taking land and defending themselves. What Saba needs to explain when she's talking about, the Quran says about, the Christians and the Jews being people of the book. In the Quran, there is the law of abrogation and nasakh wal mansukh. There is a law in the Quran that says if there are two verses contradicting each other in the Quran, the latter verse wipes off the first verse and the latter verse becomes the law. So all the good, nice verses in the Quran that were in the beginning, in the early stages, when Prophet Muhammad was trying to appeal to the Jews to accept him as the last of the prophets, that's when he borrowed a lot from the Old Testament and wrote all the nice verses about them, trying to recruit them. When they refused to accept him and he turned against them, that's when all the violent verses in the Quran were written. And according to the law of the Quran, under the law of abrogation, all the new verses replaced the first verses. So the verses that ISIS is using in killing Christians and Jews and everybody else are exactly what Prophet Muhammad and the Quran wrote and justified in the Quran. So what Saba is telling you is half-truth to mislead the American public who doesn't know enough about the Quran to actually believe that Prophet Muhammad, all the Christians and Jews are all together and we love them and they are the people of the book. That's not reality. That has changed in the latter verses.
Bridget, every single verse in the Quran is supposed to be valid for eternity. It is the word of God, and we can't pick and choose verses that we agree or disagree with. Every single word is valid for eternity. There are laws of war in the Quran that apply in very certain specific context. People are perverting the teachings of Islam.
Let me ask this question.
For their crimes.
Muhammad was obviously a very controversial figure. There's issues about the ages of women he married. Do you know the answer to that, Saba?
He married based on his tribal affiliations. He married people.
How old?
He had multiple wives, all the way from 9 till his first
9
was 20. His first wife was 25 years older than him, and he stayed married with her until she passed away. They were married for 25 years.
How many wives did he have?
So after she passed away, he remarried. And there is the concept of polygamy in Islam, which allows a man to have up to 4 wives.
And how young was the youngest?
He married her based on God's guidance to him. And she is the mother of our believers, and we believe Aisha was shown to him in his dream.
Real quick, Brigitte, you want to respond to that?
Well, Saba at least is saying the truth about Prophet Muhammad. He married the girl at the age of 6 and consummated the marriage at the age of 9. That is the reality that a lot of Muslims are embarrassed to discuss, ashamed to discuss. They even threatened Random House, who was going to come out with a book in 2008 about the life of Aisha, thinking they're writing a romance story. But they were so afraid of Muslim reaction when the detail comes out about his relationship with a 9-year-old girl that he had a sexual relationship with as his wife, that they were afraid of a mass reaction across the world that Random House canceled it.
All right, I gotta run, and we'll just have to continue this discussion. Obviously, a lot more to get to, but I want to thank you both. Saba, thank you. Brigitte, thank you. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program.